So this is an old friend of mine. This is actually the third time I've caught this fish. Bizarrely, up the other end of the lake. Last time I had a camera crew on me. So this one's obviously up for being filmed. It's a fish called orange spot. If you see on its belly, it's got a small orange spot. It's also got quite a distinctive split in the tail. So yeah, he's well recognisable, this one. Usually over 30 pounds. It's looking pretty fat today. I reckon it's 31, 32 pounds, which is very welcome on such a cold morning. And it is freezing. When I was shipping the pole back out, the sections actually froze together. So yeah, even though it's April, I'm basically probably putting about the same amount of bait as you put in a PVA bag, but instead of landing in one small pile, you know, you have to imagine it's kind of spreading out. So it's spreading quite thinly, but over a wider area. Just a mouthful, but a mouthful spread over a table, not on a plate, if that makes any sense. It'd take you a lot longer to eat it, wouldn't it? If it, you know, if your dinner was spread all over the kitchen table as opposed to just eating it off the plate. So although it's relatively calm in this corner, we're still affected by the crosswind. So I'm having to aim a little bit right of where I'd want to be going. I'm having to be pretty deft and quick shipping the pole out. It's one of the great things about this pole is how stable it is. I don't worry about it tipping accidentally. Got a little bend in it, but that's good. I can curl it right under the trees there perfectly. Just like that. What I'm actually going to do is ship this straight back into the bag, because if I get a bite here, it'll only be one bite. What I'm trying to avoid doing is double handling the poles. So rather than take it apart and then put it in the bag, I'm saving a bit of labour by shipping it straight into the bag. Another reason why I'm shipping it straight in and out of the bag is I'm minimising the contact that the joints have with the ground, you know, which stops them from getting clogged up with gravel, dust and bits that would make it harder for me to put the poles together again. So yeah, you're keeping them clean by doing it this way as well. And there we go. Ready to move again. Bit like putting a bivvy up. It ties you down if it's all set up. Once it's away in the bag, really easy to get on the road again. So I'm sat here on one of my favourite venues, which is Horton's Crayfish Pool. Now, when I turned up yesterday, I wasn't really sure where I was going to fish. As usual, I made sure I had a good look around all the lakes on the complex, and I actually deliberately waited until quite late, and I did that at about 10 o'clock last night. I actually walked around until midnight. I spent a little bit of time looking at the boat pool, a little bit of time looking at Kingsmead, and a little bit of time stood over here on the crayfish pool. Horton's been fishing quite well, but it's quite busy, you know, and I prefer my angling a little bit quiet, and the Cray really appeals to me because there's actually no other anglers on here today. Quite bizarre, to be honest. I've got it to myself. Anyway, I'm not complaining. There were a few fish showing, so I decided that the Cray was going to be my choice for the night last night. And it turned out to be a good choice. I did actually bag one just about half an hour before Luke turned up this morning. Really nice 30-pound linear, so absolutely wicked start. It was freezing this morning. My pole sections actually froze together as I was shipping them out. So yeah, it was below freezing, and even though it's April, you know, we've got this horrible cold wind. It's nice sat over here. I've actually moved around. Even though I'd caught one, it was in the cold wind, hadn't seen anything else show. And looking across to the far side of the lake, over here where I'm sat now, we're on the back of the wind. The sun's hitting the margin there, and it was just looking really, really carpy. It was definitely worth coming over and giving it an hour. And I said to Luke, I'm just going to fish for an hour. Now, I wasn't fishing totally blind, because before I put the rods out last night, I actually came round with the spoon and I shipped 2 spoons of bait out on the spot, 1 on each spot. Not a huge amount of bait, just about half a spoon, mixed particle, flake and pellet. Now, that was a sort of roll of the dice really, in case I did want to come back today, that I would have something to fish over. I didn't put too much in because I knew that if I was going to be fishing it, it was probably only going to be 8 hours later. You know, you've got to consider that when you're baiting, how much bait do you want to be fishing over. I also wanted to maybe give any fish in the area a chance to sort of feed and become a bit more confident. Anyway, I came over here, shipped my baits over under the margin, and it took about an hour. It was quiet. I was kind of thinking I was going to give it another 20 minutes, but out of nowhere it ripped off, and I've got a really nice one in the net. Yep. Just need to get him out from under those trees. That's probably picked up my other line. Oh, he's snagged on something, is he? No. Come on. Come on. Oh, he's caught on something, I think. Come on. That's it. Whew. Bit of a hairy moment there. Kiting hard down this margin. Oh, he's on the surface. So it's a little bit of a palaver. Not ideal. I've picked up the other line. Decent mirror that is. Could be 30 number 2 of the day if we land it. God, I tell you, they're fighting really hard today. They've definitely woken up. Come on. Oh, yes. Second 30-pounder of the morning. A fish that I've caught before, again, unfortunately, but it's a really old one. Crayfish Pool Original. It's a lovely, lovely carp. So yeah, let's have a look at it. Really angry carp. Angry bite, angry fight, angry on the mat. Round about the 30-pound mark. I'm not going to weigh it. It's a fish I've caught before, but it's looking really plump. They both look plump this morning. Definitely been on the munch. Well, second carp of the morning and second good one as well. Well pleased with that. So these little fellas are what gives the crayfish pool its name. These are actually quite small ones. They grow to about twice the size of this, but even this size, they can be major problems with your rig and with your bait. So yeah, it does make you think about your tactics a little bit on here. Okay, well, I've moved swims again. I've just come past the corner, which is close to the van. The wind's absolutely hacking in here. I'm just going to give it half an hour, just half an hour with one rod. Again, shipped out last night, just a spoon of bait, 12 sections, so I know exactly where to drop it. I think if I haven't caught one pretty quickly, they won't be here. They were on the back of the wind, but they were actually up this end last night. You know, last swim was a bit more of a gamble. They were definitely here in this area. So yeah, we'll see if there's any about. We'll catch one fairly quickly, I think. Nice and easy as well. Only take a couple of minutes to get the rod out. Yeah. That one on the end? Everything is covered in zebras. Everything. Oh, sweet. Oh. Oh. That was a good fish, that, wasn't it? I've had a change of scene. I've left the cray pool and I've come over to the boat pool. The cray pool was kind to me, but it was also very cruel right at the end there. And I might be being greedy, having caught a couple of 30-pounders today, but I decided one quick roll of the dice in the corner where the wind was piling in there, pulled a single rod out. A fish showed just as I dropped the bait, right behind it. And as I was clipping the bobbin on, it was away. I hooked a really powerful fish, tore down the margin underneath what's quite a snaggy area. I was really lucky to get it out. Came back out in open water, went to go down the margin again and the hook pulled. Absolute gutter, you know, it was a powerful fish, that one. And I've played two 30-pounders today that felt big, but this one was even stronger. So a bit of a wounder. So I've left the cray not on the highest note, but anyway, I've decided to move on and have a little go on the boat pool. There's only one other angler on here and he caught a decent fish last night, one of the stockies, which has done 40 pounds. I fancy a change of scene. Could have stayed on the cray, but I think we completed it today, didn't we? A couple of 30-pounders and one lost. I think that's pretty good going for a few hours fishing. Okay, Okay, so I'm ready to ship out, and now I've pre-assembled the pole into sections of 6, which there's a little bit of a breeze out there and I want to be shipping it out pretty quickly before the breeze takes hold of it. So pre-assembled sections make that a lot easier. So that's my first tip. Second tip, don't put too much bait in. It's really easy to overfill the spoon. We're just fishing for a bite, so really we want the equivalent of a PVA bag. So I've got a small handful of particle and I've got a small handful of pellet and flake. That's it. You know, I see a lot of people loading the spoon to the gunnels. You don't need to do that. Not necessary. We're just fishing for a bite at a time. Okay, so I've put a little bit of bait in the spoon. I'm now going to load my rig in. Now I do that afterwards because I want it to be the first thing that comes out of the spoon. I don't want the lead to be dragging the bait, the hook bait and the hook through the bait. I've had it in the past where it will nick a bit of flake or something like that and masking the hook point. So, I mean, you could cover it with a bit of foam if you were so desired, but I haven't felt the need to. Okay, so I'm using my usual multi-rig, the same as that I've been using on the crayfish pool, but I've changed the hook bait over to a citrus pop-up. People often ask me, can I use a lead clip? Can I use a helicopter rig? You can use anything you want in the spoon. I tend to use a drop-off in line because it's really anti-tangle. It's very difficult for that line to get caught up around the lead. So when I drop that and I'm not feathering it down all the time, I'm pretty confident that's going to be fishing. So just pop that in. Load the leader out of the side towards the rod. That way I know if I tip it towards the rod, impossible to tangle. And yeah, that's pretty foolproof. So that's it. Ready to go. Just going to get this out of the way. And we're heading out to the middle. You know, this is open water fishing with a pole. And it's something that it doesn't really get used for, but it's really effective. It's like fishing with one spom right over the top of the bait. So you notice I'm constantly mending it and straightening it as I'm pushing it out, just to avoid getting too big a bend in the pole. Now it is possible to feel the lead down as well. Just felt it down for the last bit there. And that's it, pull that back in nice and quickly. The boat pool looks really good, to be fair. I've just seen one show as I've pulled my rod out, 10 yards past it. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. Had a liner on the first rod pretty soon after casting out. So I think as far as location goes, I think we're bang on them. Just a question of whether they're hungry. I think they will be. So the boat pool's actually, I think it's probably my favourite lake on the complex. And it's probably not the best known carp lake. It's more known as the catfish water. And there's 40 or 50 very large catfish in here, up to 100 pounds. Now, I'm hoping that they leave me alone tonight. They can be a bit of a pest. Also, there's some very large bream. So getting through to the carp can sometimes be a challenge, but we're at that time of year where the cats aren't quite awake and the bream aren't too lively either. So fingers crossed it'll be the carp that reach the bait first. The stock itself is pretty impressive. There's quite a few 30-pounders. And top of the tree, there's two very big commons that live in here. One of them called the Big Common. I've had that one a couple of times. But there's a fish called the Square Common. I'd really like to catch that one over 40, and it's been as high as 47 pounds, which would be a new PB common for me. So yeah, fingers crossed, that's the one that picks the hook bait up. Okay, it's just gone 9 o'clock and I'm all packed away. It was a really, really cold night last night. Went down to -3, believe it or not. And unsurprisingly, it's been pretty quiet. There were a few fish bouncing out, but this morning I woke up at first light to a pair of cormorants working the water in front of me. And they were giving me liners and generally stirring up loads of bubbles. And I think if there were any carp there, I think they would have been spooked off. So I've had a cup of coffee, I've packed my gear away. I've had a better night's sleep now, so I'm feeling 1,000,000%. I'm going to go and try and catch one more. I'm going to go back over the crayfish pool to where I lost that one yesterday. There's a chance, if they're there, I'll get another quick bite. So let's give it a go. Okay, so a little bit of deja vu here. Same spot that I dropped in yesterday. Most people wouldn't come fishing for half an hour, but as you saw yesterday, the bite came within 2 minutes. So it's worth it. It is worth it. I've literally got half an hour to nick one final bite. And it's looking quite good. There's one other angler on over the other side, but the lake's pretty quiet. Wind's gently trickling into this corner. Again, just enough bait for a bite. Let's see if they're about. Well, I've given it 40 minutes now and it's all quiet, so that's my lot. I've got to get out of there. It's been quite productive, 36 hours. It would have been nice to catch one last night, but we did all our work at the beginning of the session this time. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it, Luke. I'll catch up with you soon.